I guess there's only one way to find out. Let's do it to it, right?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Well, the NFL wasted no time getting weird. Banner night in Philly, lightning in the third, and Jalen Carter gets tossed 6 seconds into the season for spitting on Dak. This is episode 29 of Rice on the Mics. I am your host, Ian Rice. We'll sort out the Magic Loogie angle, why the game got flipped after the delay, and how the over died after a 40-point first half. Locally, I'm taking Mama Rice, yes, the woman who birthed me into this miserable franchise, Jets-Steelers home opener, and I'm trying to end my personal 0-17 curse. Butt fumble, cruise 99, you name it, I've worn it. Don't sell your tickets opening day, though, folks. This is the fresh start that we've been waiting for. Rodgers is in its week one mode, but the real story is the line shuffle after AVT's injury and how that protection is going to hold up for the rest of the year. Across the way, Giant fans, you know the deal. Andrew Thomas has been the linchpin, and he's doubtful. That's the hinge of the offensive line. If he can't go, Giants are basically asking the football gods for a favor. Russ at 36 is going to need the quick game and a bailout plan. And that plan might just end up being Jackson Dart. Malik Neighbors is expected to play, so at least the alpha's available, but can they block long enough to find him? In Queens, it's the kids. Tong, Sproat, McLean, they get leaned on while Sanger resets down to AAA. See what I did there? Red Series is going on, and it's either bury them or you'll end up breathing life into them. And the bats are looking like they're swinging at beach balls. Just get to the bullpen without some heartburn, please. In the Bronx, the Yankees took a series in Houston, and almost a sweep if it wasn't for some terrible umpiring. Rodon keeps stacking wins while the gauntlet schedule keeps rolling on. Still got the Tigers, the Jays, and the Sox. And a quick Queens detour, Alcaraz just sent Djokovic home in straight sets, and the women's final is set between Sabalenka and Anisimova. League-wide, Micah Parsons to Green Bay changed numbers and narratives. Betting markets told you firsthand. And we've got our picks with the receipts on IG. And speaking of picks, 10:30 Saturday morning, I'll be doing a guest spot with your favorite handicapper and my buddy at Wolves of Wisdom Sports. You're going to want to tap into that for sure. But all right, let's get this thing going. Eagles and Cowboys were chaos. We're going to start there.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Super Bowl banner night in Philly, which apparently Sirianni was too cool to attend to. And the NFL said, let's get chaotic. 6 seconds in, as a player is getting carted off, Jalen Carter, no pun intended, gets tossed for spitting on Dak. And look, we're not going to Zapruder film the saliva spit here, but Dak was shown spitting, and he says he spits forward all the time to avoid his lineman. Carter thought it was at him, and in the NFL, it's always the second guy that gets caught. So the ref calls a non-football act, 15 yards, quick ejection, and the Cowboys quickly punch in two touchdowns with Javonte Williams. Who saw that coming? They also didn't give up a sack the whole game either. And the whole night pretty much kept the same energy. Now, Philly still controlled enough of the big moments to get it done. They went down right away and scored. Jalen Hurts ran in two. Saquon punched in one. But then we got the 65-minute lightning delay with 5 minutes left in the third, which they claimed was only going to be about 6 minutes or so. And it basically turned the game into cement. First half, you had 40 points scored. And after halftime, 3. A 58-yarder by Jake Elliott. If you had the over, I am sorry for your loss. And Dallas had chances. Miles Sanders coughed one up in the red zone that would have put it over. Dak actually made the tackle, too. So if you're in a fantasy league where your QB makes a tackle, congrats on the 100 points. And CeeDee Lamb. Oh, boy, CeeDee Lamb, did you have a rough night late? Early, he seemed to prove exactly why you took him in the first round of your fantasy drafts. But 3 drops, one of which would have put them inside the 20 with under 3 to play. He left an 11 extra points on the deck in fantasy. And if you go back and watch it, it looked like either he or the other slot receiver ran the wrong route because two of the players were on top of each other when CD bobbled it. But you're that guy. You got to make that catch regardless. And I'm not going to beat him up too much for the 4th and 3 lob. It was a shot outside of the numbers. He beat the guy. Looked like he maybe got held a little bit on the hip. But he had to dive for it, in and out of the hands. That's a tough catch. I'm not going to kill him for it. He owned it, though. He owned it afterwards. He said, quote, "I need to catch the damn ball." Facts. That's it. That's what you want, though. That's what you want from a team leader, not a quarterback. Accountability. Philly ends up not covering the 7.5, but the more important thing is they bank the win on a weird night with a weirder ejection and a weather pause against a division opponent that actually looks stronger than most people thought they were. We'll see if the league looks to discipline Carter at all. Sirianni said that any discipline between them would be kept in-house. And Hurts was on the same page. Said we got the W, and we move on. Now, time for the locals. I'm taking my mom to the Jets-Steelers game on Sunday. I'm trying to break my personal curse of 0-17 at Jets games. That's not exaggeration. That's not hyperbole for the show. The butt fumble, the Cruz 99-yard touchdown on Christmas Eve, Randy Moss 183 receiving yards. I have seen the worst of it, and I'm here to say I am due. I feel it in my bones. A win is coming on opening day. And a little sidebar to the season ticket holders. Don't be that guy selling the home opener tickets just to make a quick buck on the season. This is the one day every year where hope is fresh. The tailgates are perfect. The slate is clean. Everyone is in good spirits. Show up. Be loud. Boo Rodgers if you want. I don't care. And just scream Jets, 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 Jets. That's the whole point. The storyline for the game all week has been played up as the Rodgers revenge game. And he's doing his best Bill Belichick impression, saying it's week 1. I'm in week 1 mode. I get it. Honestly, I'm kind of with him. It's getting blown out of proportion a little bit. The real game for the Jets is going to be up front. Stop me if you've heard this before. Alijah Vera-Tucker is out for the season. Stop. He tore his triceps. Stop. Again. But this time it's in the other arm. So he got a second opinion. He's done, though. He's done. Which is quietly a huge loss for the Jets. He was the fifth best rated run blocker in the NFL for a team that basically told you all year long they plan on running the hell out of the ball. So what does that mean? That probably means Tippmann's going to slide to right guard. Myers will go to center. And John Simpson will be in there trying to play through a back thing. And I don't know. It's not ideal against a Pittsburgh front that can wreck your day real quick. These young rookie tackles are going to be tested early. But if the Jets can keep the pocket reasonable, Justin Fields doesn't have to be the superhero, right? He just needs to be the Mark Sanchez. He just needs to get it done. A heavy dose of Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. That's gonna draw the defense in. And then Fields and Wilson will hopefully be able to get theirs because of it. And Garrett looks ready to set the tone, man. It's a different room, different leaders. It's a different vibe in Gotham. I'm looking forward to it. Now, same stadium, same problems, different team. The Giants' entire offensive plan kind of starts and ends with Andrew Thomas. And he's doubtful this week. They're 3-15 without him in the last 2 years. If he can't go, that is a massive blindside hole for a 36-year-old Russell Wilson. That means you're probably calling more quick game, more chips with the tight end, maybe some dump offs to Tracy or Scatterbo, which could be cool to watch. But more importantly, that means keeping Jackson Dart hot. He jumped Jameis to QB2 in the depth chart for a reason, but this could be the Giants' brass quietly putting their eggs in the hands of a 22-year-old. They can't straight up make him the starter, even if they loved everything they saw from him in the preseason against backups. But by elevating him to number 2, if protection leaks or Wilson plays some hero ball and doesn't get down fast enough, there's a good chance we could get a shot of him on the sideline warming up. And that's everything playing out exactly how Daboll might have drawn it up. Problem with that is you're now throwing the kid fresh out of the frying pan and into the fire of a tough schedule and monster defensive lines to face. Look, maybe he can succeed. Maybe he can turn into the next stud in New York. But as a Jets fan and just as an overall football observer, I've read that book before. And most of the time, it doesn't exactly go how the author planned it. The good news is that Malik Neighbors is expected to play. His back tightened up a little bit on Friday, but no designation. So the alpha is up and ready. Can they block long enough to use him? Hopefully so. Also, quick business note on the Giants. I mentioned earlier in the offseason that the NFL has okayed teams to sell 10% maximum of their team to outside contributors, as long as it's approved by the other owners and whatnot. And the first domino has fallen. The Koch family is buying a full 10% at a $10 billion valuation of the Giants. The Maritish group is still going to run it, but that is a huge number for a minority slice. And I expected this from teams like Tennessee or Arizona with some owners just looking to make a quick buck. But the Giants come in and drop the hammer and set the precedent. $10 billion for 10%. Just a frame of reference here, the Celtics, who are basketball royalty, their entire franchise just sold this offseason for $6.1 billion. Okay, that's the entire franchise. The Koch family just paid $10 billion for 10%. Jesus Christ, who's got this money and they throwing around like that? Anyway, the moral of the story with these two teams, Jets, line trouble, need to protect. Giants, line trouble, they need to protect. That's the show. Take the under in both games. Now let's talk about a player the Giants won't have to worry about too much anymore. Let's talk Micah. The agent says Micah always planned to play and he wanted to stay a Cowboy. And the handshake with Jerry was a power dynamic chat, not a contract. Dallas offered a huge deal with huge guarantees, top AAV, but the bridge was burned already. It was a 5-year structure, which he didn't want anyway, which Micah didn't want. And it doesn't help that Jerry Jones has never seen a microphone he didn't want to talk into. So what happens? Green Bay steps in, makes the trade, secures a 4-year, $188 million, $120 guaranteed contract. Highest paid non-quarterback. Oh, and by the way, the Eagles tried to pry him. Cowboys said absolutely not in the division. You can always tell how big of a deal a trade is based upon how the gambling markets react. And the traders told you pretty much everything you needed to know. The Packers' Super Bowl price jumped up, and they immediately became favorites in the North. And Micah's Defensive Player of the Year price shot up to the favorite. And it's not hype either. That's a deep dive in team fit. So let's just break it down, right? Jeff Haley, the DC for the Packers, his defense last year lived on simulated pressure and some turnovers, but down to down against straight dropback, they were the worst success rate defense in the league. So in layman's terms, for the non-football educated, what does that mean, right? Well, it basically means they had some guys who were decent enough to attack the quarterback, but never without some kind of scheme or some bullshit. And when they didn't scheme, they got torched. Well, Micah solves that problem. 1st and 10, beat your guy. Now you set up 2nd and long without sending any bodies. So that lets Haley play a better coverage, force the quarterback to panic a little bit, and still be able to pick his moments to get creative. You'll still see the spinner looks and the stunts up front, but the main thing is you don't have to scheme a miracle every single snap now. And yes, by the way, Cowboys-Eagles is always spicy, but just knowing that Philly actually called Jerry Jones and asked him what the price was for Micah makes it a little bit spicier. I mean, Dallas shipping him to the Eagles would have broken football. And all right, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say he was even more of a madman than he already is, and he actually did pull the trigger on Micah to the Eagles. Good God, the interdivision tax that they would have had to pay. What would that deal even have looked like? That would have been insane. They made the right move. They got shorthanded because they did it so late in the season, but the Cowboys did the only thing they could do. Anyway, time to dive into the spicy part of football. Our picks and our receipts. A friendly and important reminder, bet with your head, not above it, right? Don't be that asshole that can't pay rent because you swore you had a lock. Now, with that being said, this whole season I'll be making 3 picks for you each week, and we'll be checking out receipts from the week before. Being as it's week 1, nothing from last week. But I will be the first one to call myself out if I bomb this week. Trust me, I promise. So let's get started. First on the list, Panthers plus 3.5 at Jacksonville. Look, I don't really think that Carolina's good, but I think they're noisy, if that makes sense. And week 1 in the NFL is always noise week. Both teams are 1-4 in their last 5 openers. 3 of Jacksonville's 4 wins last year were at home. And I know they're at home, but I don't know. I like Carolina enough to run it with Chuba and maybe a big play here from Tetratoa. Take the points. They lose by field goal. Fine, you got the hook to cover. Next play. Falcons money line. I know everybody, Tampa, Baker Mayfield. What is Tampa? But week 1, I love home dogs. I love home dogs in September. It's now been 4 straight drafts of premium weapons. Pitts, London, Bijan, and now finally Penix to take you over the top. You can take the plus 1.5 if you feel you want a cushion, but I'd rather pay the price for the money line. Falcons at home, dogs, lock that in. Okay? And last but not least, third pick, 49ers money line at Seattle. You can lay the minus 1.5 at 110 if you want, but I'll pay the extra dime. San Francisco should run through the West, especially if CMC's healthy. Seattle's line took big hits. Early division leverage matters. They get the job done. So those are my 3. If you trust me enough and you want to bundle all 3 of them, it's going to be 6-1 plus 634 on a parlay. So I'll post the results on Instagram, same as always. And a quick PSA after Thursday night's game. Totals can swing on weather and weirdness. If the sky starts flashing or a backup quarterback has to make an appearance, maybe don't chase live overs. Ask me how I know about that. And last, but certainly not least, Saturday morning, I am doing my first crossover event. I'm jumping on with my buddy Nick on his Instagram Live. His Instagram handle is at Wolves of Wisdom Sports, WOLVESOFWISDOMSPORTS. Just how it's spelled, Wolves of Wisdom Sports. He is a great handicapper. He is a good friend of mine, and we're going to run through some side props, some actual lines that we really like, that are actually sharp and not just the ones that are getting thrown at you constantly on your timeline. So you're going to make sure you want to hop in that chat and bring your questions. If you got any fantasy start sits, drop the format so we can give you a real answer. It's just going to be 2 guys that get it, that get sports, chatting about the teams that you love, the teams that you hate, and the teams that you love to hate. Definitely something that you don't want to miss, and hopefully goes well, so I become a recurring guest. Now, some poll results from this week that were pretty spicy and pretty telling, too. A little pulse of the people action, if you will. The first one I had up was Giants, should they start Jackson Dart right away? And it was actually a 60-40 split on they should throw him in there. So that's interesting. Jets fans selling opening day tickets, and the poll results were 80-20. Yes, they should sell them. But you know what? I saw a bunch of you non-Jet fans in there voting against it. So I'm going to say that one was skewed. The one that was the most overwhelming majority was the Yankees temperature check. And the question was fool's gold or the real deal? And 90% of you voted fool's gold. Jeez. Listen, we keep the receipts here at Rice on the Mics, good and bad. And yes, we will read the bad ones just to keep everybody, not just me, accountable. So make sure you guys keep tapping in. I'd love to hear, the pulse of the people, see where everybody else is feeling, not just me with the hot takes. All right, now we're on to some baseball. How the Mets are paving the way for the Giants, relying on kids to carry them in the future. How the Yankees might have slayed a small dragon in Houston, but still have a mountain to climb with the upcoming schedule. This is Rice on the Mics. Stay tuned. Well, with only about 25 games left in the MLB season, it's time to hit the MLB segment. Feels like just yesterday I was yelling at you guys about summer coming and hot dogs on a nice hot day. Now here we are. It's September, and we'll be looking at cold playoff baseball before you know it. Anyway, we'll start with Queens first, and then we'll go into the Bronx, and then a little bit of Golden Boy news to just touch on. So, the story with the Mets. Well, the kids, the cushion, and the cardiac bullpen. The Mets have finally done what every fan has been begging for all year. They brought up the kids. And honestly, it's giving me flashbacks to Harvey, DeGrom, and Wheeler. Jonah Tong, his debut felt like a moment. Gets a standing O, 97 pitches, 6 strikeouts, no walks, and the Mets bats showed up for the kid, dropping a 19 spot on the Marlins. A franchise record for runs at home, by the way. 6 homers. The ball looked like a beach ball up there. And Tong's over-the-top delivery is all that people can talk about. He looks like Lincecum. Not to mention that he just has these like aloof, happy to be here, life is great attitude about him. If he continues to be strong on the hill, which I think he will, he is going to be an instant fan favorite. Now, he did give up a crooked inning after a couple errors, but the stuff was there and the poise was there. That's what matters. His next start is Saturday. If he goes out and dominates, it's going to be great. Now, unfortunately, that was the only bright spot coming out of that Miami series. So we're going to fast forward to the Detroit series, where game 1 was the Juan Soto show. Grand slam, then a go-ahead triple, had 6 ribbies on the day. For a supposed down year, he's on pace for 42 home runs and 35 stolen bases. All that talk about he's unhappy here and he wished he stayed with the Yankees, that was and always will be bullshit and Yankee rhetoric. Little brother got your guy. It is what it is. I'm sorry. And yes, look, at points he might have looked disheveled during the season. But you know what that was? That was because he wasn't hitting and the team was still winning. That's not something that he's used to. He's used to being the guy and the reason that they win. And then when he started hitting and started dominating, the team was losing. So that weighed on him too. But now that he's hot and everybody's hot and the kids are up and the bats are hot and the boys are ready to play and they're getting hot at the right time, I can't say hot enough. The one true thing I know in this world is death, taxes, and Juan Soto comes up in huge moments. Okay? You can see it in every 0-2 count that he's in. You can see it in every single playoff game that he's ever played in. When the lights are the brightest and the moment calls for a steady heartbeat, he slows down to a snail's pace. Soto is the guy. Soto's the guy I want him. He's the guy that I wanted to play. He's my, I hate to say this, he's my Jeter. And I can't stand Jeter. But God damn it, was he clutch. Soto is clutch. And guess what? I get him for the next 15 years. Hell, I would have paid him more money. I don't even care. Anyway, they took that game 10-8 because the bullpen, even with all the hits. So then game 2 of the Detroit series, here comes another young stud, Nolan McLean. And he turned a shaky first into a cruise control outing. He goes 6 innings, 2 earned, and he retired his final 14 batters. Showed insane poise for a rookie, realizing early that he didn't have a sweeper and he didn't have his curve. So he goes, okay, fuck it. I got my fastball and I got my changeup. Then finds his rhythm, went back to it later, and crushes. He's now 4-0 in his first 4 starts. And that's the first Met to ever do it, which is crazy that I even say that out loud, considering that the pitchers that this organization has had pitch for them. And he's got 28 strikeouts through his 4 starts. The only person he's chasing with that is Nolan Ryan's 29. Yeah, that's some elite company. I'll take that. And even more, the offense continues to pile on. Alonso hits 2 home runs. One was a monster moonshot. Soto homered again. And Terrence hits a 3-run shot to add another 17 hits in the book. You know, the Yankees are home run or bust. This is just beautiful to see. I kind of get it why they love it, right? Here's the problem, though. Game 3 was the reminder. They were down 2-3. They had bases loaded, 1 out. Starling Marte, who's been great all year at the plate, I'm not taking anything away from him, swings at the first pitch when the pitcher had been wild all day and pretty much walked the bases loaded, rolls it into a double play. Then the next half inning, the vaunted and elite bullpen serves up a 3-run dagger home run. That was the momentum flip. That was the hill that they couldn't climb. They had it in the palm of their hands, and they let it slip. But regardless, they came out with a series win against one of the best teams in baseball, and they finished a 16-game in 16 days slog going 9-7. They've got a 5-game cushion on the last wild card spot against the Reds, and the Giants are actually chasing the Reds now, but they have a series with the Reds coming up this weekend. So this is the fork in the road. You either bury Cincinnati or you breathe life back into them. And rotation-wise, it is a youth movement, and I am so on board with it. I'm so happy they finally called these kids up. Now, to call people up, you got to send people down. And Kodai Senga, unfortunately, gets the chop there. Gets sent down to Syracuse to reset, and which is good because everybody that seems to get sent down to Syracuse figures it out. He hasn't had an outing past 6 innings since early June, and he's posted a 6.56 ERA over his last 8 starts. That's not good. But now in his place this weekend, we get a full homegrown 4-day roster. David Peterson on Friday, Jonah Tong on Saturday, Brandon Sproat getting called up for his debut on Sunday, and Nolan McLean on Monday. And Sproat's year turned around after May. He had a little bit of a rough start, and then he posted a 3.19 ERA over his last 17 starts. And honestly, if you toss out one ugly bullpen relief thing where they were trying to test him out if he could come out of the bullpen, his ERA is really a 2.78. Oh, and by the way, his last outing was 7 scoreless with 9 strikeouts. The pitching is in good hands with these young studs, man. Catching gets a lift, too. Our boy, Francisco Alvarez, is back. My man slid into second, tore his UCL, which in his thumb, which I didn't even know you could do, and he's going to grind through it. Then, as he's sent down, he's at bat, he gets hit in the hand, breaks his pinky, gets called right back up, picks up where he left off, and just slams doubles. This man has a torn ligament in one hand and a fractured pinky in his catching hand, and still will do anything to be back with this team to try and win a ship. I don't know if they have better pain meds or he is just cut from a different cloth when it comes to pain tolerance, but the heart that this young man is showing to be with this team has to light a fire in these guys' belly. The big picture stays the same. Early in the year, they couldn't hit, and the pitching carried them. Now, they can hit anything, and the pitching has got some training wheels. look, if the kids can give you 15 to 18 clean outs, you can trust this lineup to handle the rest of it. Just so much as the bullpen doesn't turn into a fucking therapy session every night. And, oh, by the way, on top of it, too, nothing changes with Miami or the Nationals. That 9-7 record over the last 16, 2 losses are to the Nats and 3 losses are to the Marlins. So realistically, they could be, they sweep those guys, which they should have. They could have been 14-2. Now we're talking division if that happens. Whatever. Some things are eternal. The Marlins just will always be a thorn in the Mets' ribs. Now, on to the Yankees. The gauntlet begins with a grown-up series win in Houston, which is rare. The Yankees did what good teams do. They beat the bad teams when they had to. They went 8 of 9 against the Nats and the White Sox, which is huge for their division considering they were down so much. And then they went to Houston and they buckled up for some adult big boy baseball. And game 1, Trent Grisham hits his second grand slam in 5 days. Jazz leaves the yard twice, and Max Fried continues to be worth every single penny spent on him. Gives you 7 innings of 1-run ball, and just continues to be the man, either after a Yankee loss or to continue the streak. There was a weird little moment here, too, with Framber Valdez and Cesar Salazar. The catcher seemed to, wave Valdez off, step off and, recollect himself, and he didn't. And then his next pitch literally turned into the grand slam. So then the next batter, his pitch nails Salazar in the chest at 92 when it looked like he was ready for a curveball. Now, after the game, everyone swears it wasn't intentional. His agent swears that was stupid. Why would you guys say that? And they hug it out. But look, body language is body language. As soon as Valdez threw that pitch and it hit him in the chest, he just walked off, looked like he didn't care. And Salazar looked back at him like, what the fuck was that? But anyway, on to game 2. Game 2 was the real stomach punch for the Yankees. The real, Houston still kind of owns you. And it was based on your offseason acquisition of Devin Williams. Tied going into the 8th, comes in, he walks 3, including the go-ahead run, then gets a balk because I think some guy in the stands yelled it, and the umpire called it, and then a wild pitch for 2 more runs. Boone continues to stick up for his guys, right or wrong, and gets tossed, and I think he was in the right for this one. So now you go to the top of the 9th. Cody Bellinger makes it a game. He walked, I forget who was pitching, but he walked 1, walked 2. Belly comes in, works the at-bat, and hits a nuke in the 9th to make it 7-8. But unfortunately, the night ends on a 3-2 brutal strike call to Jazz after a game that the umpire, I'll put it nicely, the umpire behind the plate had a tough day. And then game 3 also made a terrible call too. So that one stings for the Yankees. You might have had some momentum. You might have been able to sweep, but whatever, regardless. So game 3, Carlos Rodon. Listen, for all the smack that people talked about him and that he's not composed and he doesn't know what he's doing, myself included, he continues to just stack big boy grown-up man wins. Okay? 6 innings, 2 runs, only one of them earned because the Yankees always make an error. And now he's tied for the MLB lead with 16 victories. McMahon homers again and then flips a go-ahead RBI in the 8th to, give him a little oomph. And Grisham slams the door shut with his 30th home run of the year, also his 100th on the career. He's going to get some money in this offseason coming up. Anyway, Yordan Alvarez was once again a menace to the Yankees. 4 hits for the second night in a row. God bless the bullpen if they have to face him in the playoffs. But game 3, Bendar punched out Correa and Walker with the bases loaded to end it. And this is the first series win against a winning team since mid-July in Seattle. That's crazy. It's wild that it's taken that long. But for a team that's been trending upwards, this is a big series win against a team that has owned you in the past decade. The rivalry is always with the Red Sox. Really, for younger fans, the rivalry is with Houston. So the headline is the resume win. But now for the Yankees comes the gauntlet schedule. You still got 3 more with the Blue Jays, followed by 3 more with Detroit, and then 3 more with the Red Sox. Now the schedule softens up later at the end of the year, but this 9-game stretch here, this is the big dog. And we're about to learn if this last 10-day run that they've been on is either substance or just a sugar high. Lastly, just quick credit where credit is due. Shohei Ohtani hits his 100th home run as a Dodger in just 294 games. That is the fastest in franchise history, and it wasn't just a home run. It left at 120 miles per hour, the hardest hit of his career. And I know you watch baseball. You've seen some of these home runs he's hit. This thing was a shot, okay? Best part is Dodgers still lost in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. And the Dodgers have been in a skid as of late. They better watch out. The Padres are coming for that ass for the division. But Ohtani is just doing Tom Brady level, I hate it, but I respect it things. So I'm going to file that under alien, I guess. Just monster. But all right, that's the diamond. The kids are dealing in Queens. Grown-up series win in Houston for the Yanks. And Ohtani is Ohtani, the golden boy. I can't stand him, but damn it, is he good. Next, we're going to hit a lightning round of stories. Some things that you might have scrolled past this week, but actually kind of matter. So stay tuned. Keep it right here. Got plenty more to talk about. We are almost wrapped up here. So let's just take a quick lap through Queens. And no, not baseball, because we just covered that. It is U.S. Open season. And the men's final is the one that we all low-key expected. Jannik Sinner, number 1, versus Carlos Alcaraz, number 2, for the 3rd straight slam final in a row. We're watching history here, people. That has never happened within one season ever. Look, tennis is a sport that people scoff at and poo-poo and, it's bougie and this and the other. But I'm telling you, if you give it a shot, it is one of the most entertaining one-on-one games that you can't look away from. Sinner is a slight favorite on the books, but here's the juice. Alcaraz hasn't dropped a set all tournament. And looks like a new animal since he shaved his head. He's 44-2 since April. It's September. Forget tennis. Do you know how incredible of a stat that is to be 44-2 in whatever sport you play? Head-to-head this year has been a little bit of a ping-pong match between the two of them, but overall, Alcaraz leads 9-5 and 4-1 in finals against Sinner. On the other side of the net, though, Jannik is chasing the first back-to-back U.S. Open men's title since Federer in 2008 and has now hit 5 straight major titles. That is another stat that's incredibly impressive. This is literally Federer versus Nadal energy, just with 2 different passports. One's Italian and one's from Spain. The adult in the room, Novak Djokovic, said the quiet part out loud. Unfortunately, not unfortunately. I mean, I root for Alcaraz. I root for Djokovic just because he's a god in the sport. But after Alcaraz bullied him in straight sets, he said best of 5 versus these 2 different mountains at 38 is just, it's a tough hill to climb. He went on to say that, I quote, ran out of gas after 2 sets and said he thinks he's more alive in best of 3 going forward, which obviously he says that tongue-in-cheek because he has nothing left to prove and will go down as one of, if not the greatest tennis player of all time. But I think he also recognizes that Father Time takes no prisoners, and eventually Djokovic's time will come too. He said he still wants to play a full slam season next year. So, translation, the old lion is still hunting and looking to add to his trophy case, but he's no fool, and he respects the new hands that the game's in, I guess. I wonder if he has a sense of pride seeing all this new, young, amazing talent and feels like he had a hand in kind of shaping them, because I'm sure they grew up watching him. He's been in the game for so long. Tennis is one of the rare sports that you start at 16 and you dominate till you're 25, and then you're kind of out of it. So for the fact that he's 38 and still doing it is insane. But yeah, I wonder if he's like, he feels like he has a hand in shaping them, or he has maybe this tinge of, I don't know, not vitriol. Vitriol's not the right word because that's anger. But, I don't know, something that he is no longer the best at a sport that he absolutely dominated for about 10 years. And he was ranked either 1, 2, or 3 for almost 20 years. For people that don't understand tennis, his closest comparison in another sport would be Tiger, for example. So Tiger exploded on the scene, came up young. He played against the greats of like Jack Nicklaus and Ernie Els, but they were kind of on the way out. And then once he figured out, he dominated against like Mickelson and Singh and Sergio Garcia, but they were never really truly at his level. And then by the time he got older, he kind of phased out against guys like Dustin Johnson or Rory or Spieth or Koepka. So the same story is kind of true for Novak. I mean, Novak competed and he kind of made his names against guys like Agassi and Pete Sampras and Roderick while they were on the way out. But then he mostly dominated. I mean, it was good back and forth against Federer and Nadal, but he dominated Murray. He dominated Stan Wawrinka. And now in his old age, he is kind of, quote-unquote, passing the torch to guys like Alcaraz and Sinner and Musetti, Tiafoe, Fritz, but also while still being ultra-competitive. So, I don't know. Look, sorry to go on the rant about Djokovic here, but he needs to be given his flowers. If you don't like tennis, you're missing out on some history here. We're going to see history going forward with Alcaraz and Sinner and these young guys, and especially the women's game too. But Djokovic is the Tom Brady. He is the all-time winner in majors, in weeks number 1, in every category. He's Gretzky, you know? So enjoy it while you can. Anyway, on to the women's side. We got a Sabalenka versus Anisimova finals set, ready to go. I'm a big Pegula fan, but she is notorious for choking in the quarters or the semis. And she won the first set against Ariana, but the bully came back hard and just bullied her on the hard court. And same thing with Anisimova, too. Osaka's no pushover, but she lost that first set and came back and won the next 2. Not to mention, too, she just took out Swiatek in the same week. She took out Swiatek and Osaka back-to-back. And on top of it, let's not forget, she's a Jersey girl coming out of Freehold. So, look, Americans are already rowdy, and a lot of them are not a big fan of Sabalenka. And she's a local kid in the finals. It's going to be loud for Ariana. Let's see if she can handle it. Now, from Queens to the campuses. college football. I don't do much on college football on here. I mean, I know enough, but not enough. You know what I mean? I'll make sure we keep up on it. But week 1 was hype meeting reality. And the AP poll got real spicy. So, Ohio State beats Texas. They shoot up to number 1. First in-season number 1 since 2015, by the way. I was surprised when I looked up that stat. We got Penn State at 2, LSU at 3, Georgia at 4, Miami at 5. Texas drops down to 7 after that loss to fucking Ohio State. They went from 1 to 7. Jesus. Clemson to 8, Notre Dame to 9. South Carolina sneaks into the 10 spot, which I love their quarterback, by the way. Love him for the Heisman play. Florida State falls down to 14, and Alabama, Forrest Gump style, all the way down to 21, the lowest they've been in 17 years. Nick Saban is sitting on that broadcast shaking his head right now. That's the headline. On the field, 2 hype trains kind of hit the concrete, right? So the big game of the week was Arch Manning going into Ohio State. And listen, he ran into a Buckeye defense, shout out Matt Patricia, and he lost 14-7. He looked like a talented sophomore, but not a finished product. He'll be fine. People are losing their minds about, he's not good. He's not the tank for our. The next month or so softens up and let the kid breathe. He just went into the defending champion's house and he lost by a touchdown. Even Jesus might have a tough time playing in the horseshoe. Okay? Arch Manning will be all right. Now, Bill Belichick at UNC, maybe a little bit of a different story. Because TCU put the whooping on them. 48-14 in the debut. And it looked great. I mean, Belichick got the ball first. Gorgeous first drive. Puts up 7 right away. No problem. And it spiraled from there. Turned into missed tackles, a couple pick sixes. And he allowed 542 yards in the game. Boy, oh boy, would I hate to be those players in the film session this week. To be fair, though, he flipped a program, and there are 70 new players, newcomers, not transfers, not this, 70 new players. So, look, UNC had Drake May, and were good, but not great. They hired Belichick. The athletic director and the program kind of knows what it's signed up for, knows what it's doing here. They signed up for the long haul with an aging coach. And this is kind of like a multi-year build with a contingency plan later. They're going to let Belichick build the roster, build the culture, set the roster up for next 5 years or so. He's going to do some recruiting, do some sponsorship and, transfer portal shit. And then eventually he'll just pass the team on to his son, which he'll take over, hopefully do well. And then his son will get a coaching job in the NFL in probably 5-6 years. And now I got to live with another era of Belichick. Hopefully it's not in AFC East. Anyway, the near term for UNC is pick a quarterback or find a quarterback, some transfer portal, some whatever that wants to learn under Belichick. Learn how to tackle, learn how to line up right, and maybe this year get to a bowl game at 7-6, and then next year just progress, right? A little bit of bonus pettiness here too, because I let my flags fly on this podcast. I'll tell you who I root for and who I don't root for. I'm an LSU fan when it comes to college football. Can't stand Brian Kelly, but he's done great, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I was always a Ed Ogeron, Go Tigers fan, and wasn't really too happy with the Brian Kelly hiring. But LSU always attracts players, and Jaden Daniels did all right. Hopefully he can turn some of these kids into some good players. And we got to win week 1 for the first time in 4 years, so whatever. Anyway, point I'm trying to say is Brian Kelly gave it to Dabo Swinney. Basically told him to rewatch the second half after LSU's 17-10 victory over them when Dabo said, "Oh, we missed some plays and this and the other." Blah, blah, blah. A+ spice in the SEC in week 1. You'll love to see it. Now, one more topic that is potentially huge or potentially nothing before we land this plane. And surprise, surprise, it's some NBA news in September. Pablo Torre, his podcast has been making some noise lately. Pablo Torre finds out, whatever. He drops an absolute bombshell in the NBA this week. And his report has Kawhi Leonard tied to a $28 million, quote-unquote, no-show endorsement through a company called Aspiration, which is a company that Steve Ballmer, owner of the Clippers, helped bankroll right around the time that the Clippers did a large sponsorship with them. And a reported clause in said bankroll was linked to they would only get their money depending on Kawhi staying a Clipper. So basically, if you put 2 and 2 together, Steve had a little shell company that he bought, and he had Kawhi Leonard be an endorsement for $28 million that he never had to show up for. So he didn't have to pay him as much to be on his team, but he would still give him the money. The team is flatly denying any cap games, any bullshit, and they say that Aspiration defaulted and the relationship ended and they cooperate with investigators as much as wanted and whatever they need, blah, 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 blah. Here's why all this matters. There is no harder cap situation than the NBA's. From aprons to supermax eligibility, yada, yada. If the league sees any cap circumvention, the penalties get nuclear. Like huge fines, loss of picks, even contracts voided completely to unrestricted free agencies. Steve Ballmer was able to take over the team because the old owner was just a racist disaster. He said, all right, look, I might not be racist, but I might know how to do some white-collar crimes. So, look, maybe this fizzles out. Maybe it's a month-long headache for an older core that's already juggling health. But it is a story worth paying attention to, especially because Torrey goes on to say that maybe Jalen Brunson and the Knicks could have possibly had something similar in place, and that's why he took such a huge pay cut to stay with the Knicks. I mean, he left $100 million on the table. Pablo, you'll never hear this, but listen to me. I have been a fan of yours since Around the Horn with Stat Boy Tony Reale. And I know you have your journalistic integrities, and I respect that. But please don't be coming after my Knicks. We don't have much in this world, and we're finally good. Please don't do this to us. That's all I ask. All right. Sinner and Alcaraz 3 is set. The AP poll has gotten spicy, and there's some smoke in Clipperland, maybe even with the Knickerbockers too. We have covered a lot this week. Take a breath. Let's land this with a weekend plan and some housekeeping. And that is a wrap We started with the Thursday Night Football circus. Carter's ejection, a 40-point first half that nuked the over-betters' souls, and some CD late drops. Then we hit the locals. Jets and Steelers protection plan without AVT. Rodgers saying he's in week 1 mode. And Garrett and Fields back together. Giants hinging on Andrew Thomas with Malik Neighbors ready. And Jackson Dart on deck. Micah to Green Bay and the market ripple. I've got my week 1 NFL picks. Let's try to beat the books, boys. On the diamond, the Mets, well, the kids are up. Tong, Sproat, and McLean going this weekend, while Senga resets in AAA. Yankees taking a grown-up series in Houston as Rodon grabs win number 16. And a quick little tip of the cap to Ohtani's 100th dinger as a Dodger. Then we close with the final set in Queens. Sinner Alcaraz 3 on deck with Sabalenka and Anisimova, Jersey girl herself. A spicy college AP poll and a little Kawhi Clippers smoke that's worth monitoring. Look, if you're riding with the show and you like what you hear, rate and review wherever you listen. Spotify, Apple, Odyssey, whatever it is. It helps more than you think. We want more people listening to Uncle Rice giving you the takes. Make sure you follow the socials too. I'll leave the links in the notes. But every Wednesday, the IG has the polls. We got fantasy mailbag. And I'll have all the receipts for my picks that I give out. Saturday morning, I'm going live on IG with @Wolves of Wisdom Sports. That's my boy Nikki, great handicapper. Make sure you jump in with your props, your start and sits, and we'll cook through the board. I appreciate you guys hanging with me. As always, spread good energy in this world. And make sure you tell someone you love them. I'm Ian Rice. This has been episode 29 of Rice on the Mics. And I'll be in your ears next week, hopefully. Until then, take care.